Welcome to the circuit board. In the last video, we have founded the city by creating the first residential development as well as the first industrial site, bringing the population to a modest 1000 residents. As the name suggests, this city is heavily inspired by the design pattern of a generic printed circuit board, or PCB. Now, full disclosure, I'm no expert in the technical intricacies of PCBs, but I'm curious about the visual patterns and how components are aesthetically arranged. So I thought, why not bring these core elements into the world of City Skylines 2 and see if we can create a fully functional city that captures some of these unique characteristics. Standard PCBs are characterized by long parallel lines known as traces. These traces, composed of copper paths, essentially serve as the highways connecting various components, allowing electricity to flow seamlessly. In our city, these traces will be like the roads and pathways linking important areas, districts and buildings, while also influencing the layout of the urban landscape. Circuit boards even have their own grid, characterized by directional changes at 45-degree angles. It's these small details that I'm hoping to incorporate into the plan for this city, creating a unique and visually captivating metropole. In this video, we will extend the suburbs and expand to the western side of our new city. These will be adjacent to our future downtown area, so this will be a denser district with mostly mid-density buildings. Let's take a look at the blueprint for the road layout for this area. So this is what we have so far, and today we are going to be working on this location. So the first thing that we have to do is of course work on the highway, and for that I was thinking about something like this. A segment that continues from this main highway that we have and connects to the top part. We are pretty much going to remodel the existing piece of highway that we have, but instead of having a complete and long vertical line, which in all honesty is a bit boring, I thought we could edit a twist and add this small deviation to the right side just to make the layout a bit more challenging and also a bit more interesting. Then we have the main arterial. This is the road that's going to connect the different districts together, and here I've added a small loop, and on top of the loop this is where the downtown area will be, and under this loop is where we are going to work today and build the city suburbs. Perhaps we can even put a small park in the middle and make it a bit more interesting, or even add a monument or something like that to make the entrance to the city a bit more majestic. Now finally, for the road layout, this is what I have envisioned. I have these sets of streets that follow alongside the highway and are going to end at some roundabouts, just like I've done on the existing part of the city. On the previous residential layout, I tried to make it dynamic and interesting. Then I've also added this collector road that connects the highway to the industrial district and then goes up the map and connects seamlessly to this new district and also to the main loop. This diamond shape here is reserved for an oil drilling rig. So if I enable the natural resources view, we can see that this area is rich in oil and we're going to take full advantage of that. We probably are not going to work on that during this video because we still have to unlock the oil specialized industry. Overall, I think this design nicely fits into the theme of this map and the theme of the city that I'm trying to build. It's very similar to the layout that we already have, and it respects the principles of road hierarchy, which are the basic foundations for any city. So, without further ado, let's see if I can replicate this design into the game. So the first thing that we have to do is of course to buy some tiles, and I have 29 available spots left, so I think that's more than enough. So I'm gonna select the tiles that I'm gonna need. I think I'm gonna need this one as well, and all of these tiles should be selected, and perhaps this one as well, and also maybe these two. Okay, and with this we can now start building on our highway. For that we need to bulldoze everything that we have built so far, so all the way until here. And now we can continue this road segment. And for that I've been using the 4-lane road. That's the road that we can use for this section as well, even though we can upgrade it later to a highway. So let's just make sure that we set it at 90-degree angles. Okay, pretty cool. And now just connect it to the existing highway. And we don't have to do anything specific with this or pretty, because we will be adjusting this later on. Okay, and with this we can now start working on the deviation that we'll have on the highway. I'm taking a look at the blueprint at the moment, and we start to split at around this location. And I'm taking this small hill as a reference point, so I think this is it. And now let me just take some measurements. So from this second road over here to the first one, that's about 264 meters. So I think we can go at around the same distance. So 264, that will be over here. Okay, and this is going to be our deviation for the highway. And with this built, we can now start building the road that makes the 45-degree angle, which is going to be over there. Now we can just continue it, and of course we'll have to delete some power lines along the way. Okay, kind of like so. And now we should bring it back very, very late, actually. So let's make a road here, and we'll have to delete some power lines. And now we just have to do the same thing and do the segment connecting here at a 45-degree angle. And we can make the connection that will lead to the downtown area. And I want that road to be exactly at the middle here from this road. So let me once again take some measurements. So if I build a road over here at the intersection point and another one here, we can now make a segment that connects these two roads, and we can see that is 270 meters in length. The half point of 270 is 135 if I'm not mistaken. So we're gonna go at 136, that's more than enough for me. And now we can build the connecting road. And now of course we can improve this connection just so we don't have these very sharp 90-degree angles. So if I grab the one lane, one-way road, I can do that by making a short, perhaps we can even start a bit further back. Let's make one connection here and another one over here as well. Actually, it seems that the angle here is a bit bigger, so perhaps we don't need a connection there. What I am going to do, however, is to fix some orientation and establish some traffic rules. So for example, I don't want people turning left here, so I'm just going to disable the left turns at around there. And the same thing, actually we need this one. What we can do, however, is upgrade this to a one-lane road, like so, just to have some lane mathematics, and perhaps do the same thing over here. Okay, so that serves as a temporary connection. Of course, in the future we will have to upgrade this, but for the time being it's more than enough. Now I'm just going to curve these roads a little bit so it looks a bit better. Okay, so I think that's a good starting point, and we can now start building our layout. I think I'm gonna extend the road all the way over here. Let me just take a look at the elevation. This area over here is pretty flat, but I know there are some slight elevation changes. We'll have to worry about that as we build, but for the time being, I think we are covered. We can now start building our streets. or the streets for the suburbs, the ones that are going to be perpendicular to this road and parallel to this one. So I'm gonna grab some measurements and do some guidelines. So the distance from here to here is 120 meters. So I think that's the distance we'll have to go and adopt to this area as well. So from here to here, 20 meters. Let me see if I can get it straight. So here's our first road. Now we can build another one. I think I'm gonna disable this guideline to make it a bit easier. And now the fourth road is going to be a 4-lane, because it's the road that's going to cross this entire district and eventually connect with this arterial that we have over here as well, or in this case a collector road. So I'm gonna go by 120 meters again, but this time I am going to draw or build using a 4-lane. And with this we can now start building the loop that will eventually be the main access point to both regions, both the downtown area and also the mid-density residential area. And I want to use the same spacing that we've been using, so we've been using a spacing of 120 meters. That means we need to go by 60 to either side over here, so I'm going to disable this guideline, the snap to zoning cell, so that we can grab the middle point of the avenue and go by 60 meters on this side and 60 meters on this side as well. And from here we can connect to both roads. Okay, and we can now delete these pieces of road. And this is pretty much the entrance to the main part of the city. I could turn this into a one-way road and kind of make it like a roundabout, but I think I want to keep it two-directional so that I can zone some stuff in the middle here. I am going, however, to convert it to a 4-lane, like so. And now we can continue all the way back. And I know that I'm gonna make 4 zoning blocks or 4 rectangles here, and this loop is going to end at the 4th one, so we need to make a few more blocks. Let's do that. Okay, so I have built the main loop. Now we can just continue and connect the streets to this loop. I also want to preserve the zoning space here. I don't like how there's a small gap here, so I'm gonna delete this and I'm gonna completely rebuild the street using this road as the main guideline. For the streets extensions, namely these 2 streets, which are going to turn around at the same orientation of the highway, so they're going to follow along, I can simply make a connection here at 120 meters, make a couple of roads, like so, and I'll just extend them, both of them, and where they intersect with this one, that's where we are going to make the connecting point. So one connecting point over here and another one over there as well. And by deleting these segments, we have a street that perfectly goes alongside the highway. And we're going to do the same thing on this side as well. This street here will end probably at around here. That's a good place for it, but I want to extend this one a bit further. So all the way over here, I suppose. Now for the oil drilling district, in my original design, I can simply just extend this existing road. So all the way here at a 180-degree angle. And that should give us a road that is very adjacent to the oil deposits, which, as you can see, was calculated perfectly. This is actually going to be a 2-lane, so let's make those necessary upgrades. And we should now start building the parallel road that's adjacent to this this district, and that's going to be, I'm thinking about 480. So this way we have a very nice coverage of the oil deposit. Now to make that triangular shape here, we need to go, let me just see where the natural terrain ends. Let's see, 240 on either way. We should have a perfect 45-degree connection. Now we should just do the same on the other side. This is the layout for our oil drilling section, which neatly encapsulates the oil deposits. So now what I'm going to do is continue the road layout of this entire section, and I'll meet you guys shortly. Okay guys, so here's an update of the road layout that I have been developing. I have also started the development of the zoning in this particular district, and as I've mentioned, I'm going to dedicate this area to mid-density residential, or just mid-density in general. So we have this mid-density housing on both of these streets, and on this bigger street we have the mid-density apartments, which as you can see are slightly higher or slightly taller than the ones that we have here. So that's kind of the pattern that I want to keep doing. I want to dedicate these two streets to mid-density housing, and also this one as well. And then this taller one, or this thicker road, the main avenue, the main collector road, to mid-density apartments, so slightly taller buildings. I think that's what makes sense from a road hierarchy standpoint. Now I have also done some things, so as you can see, I have added some pathways and also roundabouts to these streets, because these are the ones that I'm gonna start developing first. And then I left these ones to build live so I can show you guys how I do it. But before that, let me just show you some other things that I've been doing. So first and foremost, I want to mention that I have made some modifications to this particular junction. So I have removed the crosswalks in some areas. I've also taken off traffic lights on this particular junction, and I've also fixed some directional traffic arrows that I noticed were a bit wrong. So I just thought I would mention that because I know there will be people telling me about it on the comments. But I've also upgraded this junction as well, same logic, and this one as well. So I have incorporated a 45-degree angle on this particular junction as well, which before this it was a straight 90-degree angle to the main highway, in this case Wood Street. It's a bit complex, perhaps a bit too complex for what we need, but as I've mentioned, I want to turn this into a proper highway in the future when we start thinking about development to this side of the map. Now, regarding this particular district, so I think it's time for us to start placing some services. We have some people complaining about the lack of hearses, and while I was building, I also noticed some issues with crime and also the lack of ambulances. So this district is very far away from what we have here, so they will need their proper services. And of course, eventually when I develop the downtown, I will build full-sized hospitals and police stations and headquarters and all that good stuff. But for the time being, we need to place some more local and smaller services to serve this population. So I think I'm going to start with the police. And for the police station, I think I want to build it closer to this this loop where our residential area is. So I'm thinking I'm gonna zone it directly on this street, in this case Lindbergh Street. I'm gonna delete this pathway and I will break the grid a little bit, but that's okay. And perhaps I actually want to rotate it a bit. If we place it here, yeah, I think I prefer this a bit better. Now let me just fix the pathways. Okay, and we can have a 45-degree angle there. Now for fire, I'm not going to place anything just yet because we haven't had anyone complaining about that. I will address, however, healthcare, and that I think I want to place somewhere around here, perhaps on this street. Oh, and by the way, I haven't mentioned this, but I also built these perpendicular roads here to provide more localized access between different streets. So this allows people to travel between different streets without having to go all the way to this main road, which is what we had in my original design. So I think those streets are also very good locations to build these types of services. So in this case, the medical clinic, which I will place around here. And this building is actually expandable. The extension wing is actually 3 blocks long. So I think I want to mark that space with a pathway, just so we don't zone anything inside here, and we can reserve this area for the medical clinic. If I take a look at the education panel, we see that we still have a lot of room for students. However, the only elementary school that we have in the city is very far away. It covers this section here. and this area will eventually need its own dedicated elementary school. So I'm thinking I can probably place it over here. I think that's a nice fit for it because we have a lot of room, but at the same time I think I would prefer somewhere more central, so somewhere around here. We'll have to think about that. As for high school, I think this could be a good place for it because it is a very big lot. So I think it covers enough space for the high school and also the respective sports track that you can use to expand this building. I actually think I'm going to place my elementary school on this road. I think it's big enough and you have plenty of room behind it next to this hill that you can use to extend the elementary school with playground. So I'm gonna delete this pathway actually and place my elementary school. I'm not sure I want to center it, so perhaps I'm just gonna place it here. And I think I need to yes, so the floor level didn't get very leveled, so let's actually adjust it by bringing a bit more to the center. Now perhaps we can level the terrain with this tool to hide the imperfections. Okay, so I think that works, and we can now extend the pathways. I think this gazebo, which is actually called the Children's Clinic, will look very, very well over here at the center. So yeah, that's actually pretty good. And we can complement it with perhaps a playground. I can put one there. That's pretty much it for this elementary school. Now I can, however, finish the path network. Okay, so I think that's fitting. And that's our elementary school. Another thing that this area is going to need is actually parking spaces, because as you can see, the streets are already filling with cars. That's because this area is very dense when it comes to population. I think it's a good time for us to unlock the parking areas, so I'm going to unlock it. Now, unfortunately, the small parking lot, you know, the smallest of them all, does not fit nicely in the current layout that I've built. So in order for us to place this in this region, we will have to adjust the pathway network. And I think I'm gonna start right about over here. I think I'm gonna build our first parking lot where this building is placed. So I'm gonna place a small one here. Okay, now we can just adjust the pathways. And I think for the time being, I'm just gonna have one parking lot. And when this one starts to fill up and I see that this area needs a lot more parking spaces, I can then extend and add an additional one, or even upgrade this one to a medium-sized parking lot. We are having, however, some more demand for medium density housing, so I think I'm going to continue the development of this district. So I'm gonna continue zoning the houses all the way over here, so this can all be upgraded. And for these particular scenarios where we have houses zoned on this street, that's something that I actually don't like. I want all the houses to be parallel to each other. One thing that we can do is actually dezone these blocks and force the buildings to grow here, and once they are and they occupy this entire zoning space, I can then zone that particular block. But yeah, while we let this area develop, I can actually show you guys how I build this infrastructure. So with the roundabouts, the curved roads, and also the pathways. So that's something that we can do over here. So for the roundabouts, I just use the very large roundabout. That's pretty much the setup that I have been using. So just plop it and it eventually it gets the job done. Now it could be better, instead of placing a automatic roundabout, to build my own roundabouts with one lane, one-way road and kind of make a circle. And the benefit of doing that is that you would have zoning space on the roundabout itself. I actually tried that in my first video, but it didn't work. I didn't like the way it looked, so I think I'm gonna keep this particular strategy that I've been using. Now I should just level the terrain here because it looks a bit weird. Now for the pathways, that's pretty much straightforward. I'm leaving, as I've mentioned, a 4-block gap in between the road and also the pathway. So that's the strategy and the technique that I use to build this particular shape of this city. That's pretty much a pattern that I will be using throughout the entire city. Now for the pathway on the roundabout, I just extend the pathway all the way until it snaps to the center of the roundabout, and you can actually see this by having this guideline activated, the one that says snap to guidelines. You do that on either side and then simply grab the continuous road building tool and then connect it, and it should work out very well, like so. And we can just do the same on the other side. Okay, and this made this a bit weird, so let's just get rid of it and rebuild this connection. In these particular scenarios, I can either choose to make another pathway that is parallel to this road, but because it is so small and the zoning space is so diminutive, I think I'm not gonna build anything, and I'm just gonna leave these two pathways here. Pathways are also a very good way to increase walkability in this particular city. For example, someone who is living in this street who wants to go to the elementary school, if it goes by car, it has to drive all the way until this junction, then turn around and go all the way here. But if we make a pathway network, for example, that connects everything in a very direct and short way with a minimum distance possible, we can actually improve the walking conditions of the city. So in this particular example, I can just make a pathway here and then connect it to this street by doing something like this, for example. And I can even extend and connect to the avenue itself. So this way, someone who is in this avenue can just walk all the way across the town and get to the elementary school. Over here, I don't think I want to extend this one, but I do want to extend this one all the way here and connect it to the outer pathway. And here, I think I'm just gonna make a crosswalk. I think that's fine, but we can add another one over here, connecting these two districts together. And since we're at it, why not connect the two different districts to one another using the same strategy? So I can simply grab this pathway and extend it all the way over here, then grab the middle point here and connect it. Use a 45-degree angle, which is the strategy that I have been using, the particular design choice. And then we can just keep going with this road and connect to this district as well. That's actually quite nice. Yeah, I think we are going to keep it for the time being. Perhaps in the future I am going to zone or place a special building here, and when the time comes I'll have to demolish this pathway network, but for the time being I think it works. Oh, and look at this, there's people using it already to cross between the three sectors, the three districts that we have. And speaking of districts, perhaps it's a good time for us to start setting this up, because I keep talking about districts, but visually you cannot identify them. So let's do that. Okay, so we have the 3 districts mapped out. I named them. I tried to go for something a bit more technical and techy that could be appropriate for a circuit board city. So I named them sectors. So we have sector A, sector B, and then sector C. Now eventually in the future I can go a bit more technical and a bit more specific and use specific technical terms that are more representative of a circuit board, like specific circuit board components to name my districts, but for the time being that's what I'm gonna use. So sector A is the initial residential suburbs that we have built on the past video. Sector B is the second residential district, which has a bit of industry as well. And then sector C is what we're building right now. Now, I also think this is a good time for us to relocate the power plant that we have been using, because people keep complaining about the air pollution, and that's something that I do not want to have. So I think I'm going to temporarily bring it somewhere around this location. So perhaps I can make an alley that spans from this main avenue and bring it to this area, for example. Now I think I can place my small coal power plant over here. Now the wind is blowing to the right side, so we don't have anything built here. So I think this is actually a good spot for it. Okay, now we just need to connect it to the main grid, and we just put a small roundabout here. Okay, now we can delete this power line. And then here I'll have to see what I'm gonna build after the pollution clears out. Perhaps a big park or some more specific building that's related to the industry that's placed over here. For the time being, I'm just going to place a few trees. Like so. This area is also needing a little bit of leisure. I didn't place any parks in this district, in sector C. So I think for this main road we can place a plaza. So a small plaza would be adequate for it. And I think I'm gonna place another asset over here as well. And for that, I think I'm gonna go with a small park. And I even think we can add a pathway here to make it a bit more symmetric. So something like this, okay, cool. And right next to it, I'm thinking over here would be a good place for another parking lot. So let's do that. I think I'm gonna keep placing small ones for the time being. And that will get us all the way to Busy Town. Okay, something like this. And of course we cannot forget to keep adding access points for people to travel between different parts of the city. And over here, I want to make a crossing pathway. Is that going to look cool? Perhaps I'm just gonna bring it all the way until here. And over here we can add yet another pathway. Now, I do not want cars parking on this main loop, because this is the main access point to the downtown area, or what will be the downtown area, so to say. So I think I'm going to disable parking by placing some trees and grass on the sidewalks. Now, I could do the same throughout this entire district, but to be honest, I actually enjoy to see the cars parked on the sidewalks. It also gives me a sense or a notion of the areas that need parking lots. So I think I'm gonna be very selective regarding where I place my grass lanes and trees on the roads or on the sidewalks. Now, by clicking the different district names, I can kind of see what each one needs. So this one is pretty much covered. They are very happy. Sector B is also very happy, so no issues with that. And Sector C, which is the most recent district that we have, is complaining about the lack of internet service coverage. So I think it's actually a good time for us to expand and add that particular service. Now we can either place a small one somewhere around this location, or we can unlock the large telecom tower and place it right on this hill. Which, I don't know, it could actually be a good place for it. But I'm thinking if I want to reserve this hill to a more distinct building, like a tourist attraction or something like that. But in the meanwhile, I think we can unlock the telecom tower. I'll have to unlock it anyway, somewhere along the development of the city. And this will give us a better notion of the area that it covers, and it actually covers a very large area. So this would actually be a very interesting building to place in the city. Now, for the time being, I think I'm just gonna place it here. But of course, this is a temporary location. Eventually, I'll want to move it. Okay guys, I will be wrapping the video here as it's getting quite long. I hope you have enjoyed the video as well as the concept of this new city. If so, let me know in the comment section down below, as well as any other suggestions you might have. If enough people like this concept, I will do a full Let's Play series of this city. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have fun!